Good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirit's book. We are on question 27. We're talking about spirit and matter. We started last week with Elmo. And basically, here is when Spiritism brings to us the concept of God the Creator and matter and spiritual principle and matter or universal fluid is when we are going to start discussing more in detail. Okay. Soraya, can you read for us?
Yes.
Thanks.
Okay. Number 27. Therefore, are there two elements of the universe, matter and the spirit? Yes, and God, the creator of all things, is above them. These three elements are the principle of all that exists, the universal trinity. However, the universal fluid must be added to the material elements. It acts as the intermediary between spirit and matter, as the body is too crude for the spirit to be able to act directly on it. Although this fluid may be classified as part of the material element from another perspective, it is distinguished by certain special properties. If it was simply classified as matter, there would be no reason why the spirit could not also be classified as matter. It is something placed between the spirit and matter. It is fluid, just as matter is material, and through countless combinations under the action of the spirit, it can produce an infinite variety of things of which you only know a very small portion. Without this universal, primitive or elementary fluid, the agent employed by the spirit, matter would permanently remain divided and would never acquire the properties given to it by gravity. Number A. Is this what we call electricity? We have said that it is open to countless blends of or arrangements. What you call electric fluid, magnetic fluid, and so on are modifications of the universal fluid, which is only matter of a more perfect and subtle nature. It may be regarded as being independent.
Okay. So here we have the concept, the spirits bring the concept of the universal fluid. And again, fluid is a word that was used in the middle of the 19th century with different meaning of what we know fluid today, right? So we need to understand the concept of fluid here as it was used in the 19th century. So when we have magnetic fluid, electric fluid, all deriving from the universal fluid, it's the principle. The universal fluid is the origin of everything that is matter and related to matter, right? So you have the intelligent principle, which the spirit derives from, which through the evolution, it becomes eventually the spirit, the individual spirit. And you have the universal fluid from which everything that is not the spirit and not God derives. So we have to understand it in a more ample way possible, right? We need to try not to put it into a box, thinking of the word fluid meaning what we understand of fluid today. There are other denominations. You'll find the cosmic fluid, the universal fluid, or even the universal cosmic fluid, which was the way that it was used for a very long time. But in terms of universal and cosmic being synonyms, right? It doesn't make much sense for us to say universal cosmic fluid. So that's why we say universal fluid or cosmic fluid. But again, you have to think of it as the origin of everything that is not the spirit and not God. God created the intelligent principle, the universal fluid from which everything derives, okay? Again, anything that we think that is not the spirit comes from the universal fluid. Our thoughts, their matter, comes from the universal fluid. The air that we don't see, it's universal, comes from the universal fluid. So everything comes from it, except, of course, the spirit, okay? The spirit, to act on matter, needs to act through the universal fluid, through compositions of the universal fluid that forms the perispirit, that forms the thought, everything they're using by the spirit to act on matter. So, and then the Kardec asks if this fluid is what we call electricity. And the spirit says, what you call electric fluid, magnetic fluid, are modifications of the universal fluid, which is only matter of a more perfect and subtle nature. So, because again, we are thinking about matter as we see here, the table, the chairs, physical matter, matter that belongs to the physical world. But we have all things that are in the spiritual world that are also matter. You know, things that we cannot see that are also matter. The perispirit, the spiritual colonies. How is Nosso formed? They're formed by the thoughts of the spirits that inhabit Nosso through the universal fluid, acting, using the universal fluid. So that's the important concept for us to think of here, right? God on the top of the pyramid, and then the spiritual principle from where the spirit derives, and the universal fluid, which are connected. The spirit acts on everything that is not the spirit or God through the universal fluid and all its subdivisions, right? Again, be careful with the word fluid. Don't try to understand it as we understand today, because that's not what the spirits are telling us. It's the fluid as, and again, it's words. The spirits are going to tell us again later here. It's words actually is the next question. Words are of little importance to us. It's important that we define and we understand what we are talking about. So when you're talking about the fluids, we have to understand the universal fluid as it was brought to us in the middle of the 19th century. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Questions here? The universal Trinity, right, Danny? Yes.
So I haven't read any spiritist book in Portuguese in many years. I just started one that's not translated, but it's just a novel. So the other day I heard a lecture at the center I go to in Orlando, and he was talking about plasma. So in Portuguese, plasma, what would be the translation here? Which one of those would be plasma? Do you know? He gave a whole lecture about the plasma
What was his definition of plasma? It was the universal fluid he called plasma.
That's my question. He mentioned, I remember now because he mentioned Nosso Lar, and he said that the people who are there, the spirits who are there, they basically create the city from the cosmic fluid, you said, from, yeah, right?
Yeah.
So I think that would be the plasma then. I don't know how it says in the book, in the Portuguese version as well, so.
In Portuguese, it's fluido universal, fluido cósmico.
Oh, okay.
It's the same. And again, it's words. Depends on how he was using plasma. We have the word plasma in English, right? But
Mhm.
I don't remember it on the spirit literature in English. You remember anything, Elmo, about plasma? No.
No, but I have heard in other lectures, other spiritists using the denomination plasma. But at those times, they were referring, I can say that's the same case, to the subtle ethereal matter, like the matter that things are built in our life, so to say. Not the kind of matter that you associate here, atoms and molecules, but a more subtle, more ethereal matter, is still matter, but of a different nature. Is still byproduct of the cosmic fluid or universal fluid.
Yeah, that's exactly what he was talking about, right? Okay. All right. 98.
Okay. Since the spirit itself is something, would it be more accurate and less confusing to call these two general elements inert matter and intelligent matter? Words are of little importance to us. You must formulate your expressions so that you may understand one another. Your disputes almost always arise from the lack of a common agreement over the use of words, because your language is incapable of describing that which transcends your senses. One obvious fact governs all our hypotheses. Matter in and of itself is not intelligent. Therefore, we see an intelligent principle independent of matter. The origin and connection of these two elements are unknown to us. As to whether they have a common source or the necessary points of contact, whether intelligence as an independent existence or is only a property of an effect, or even whether it is an emanation of divinity, we have no answers for these questions. They appear to be distinct to us, and we therefore consider them to be two crucial elements of the universe. We see a supreme intelligence above all this that governs all things and is distinguished from them by essential attributes. This supreme intelligence is what we call God.
Okay, so here Kardec asks the spirits if it would be more accurate to divide between inert matter and intelligent matter. And the spirits say, it's fine if you decide how you're going to call it the way you want, because words are of little importance to the spirits as long as we have a definition. And we talk about this when we talk about soul in spiritism, right? It's an incarnate being. You go outside spiritism, and soul is used for, someone that is in the spiritual world by other religions, or the soul of someone that died. In spiritism, we define an errant spirit as a spirit that is in the spiritual world, and soul as an incarnated spirit. But again, words. It's not that what they say outside here, spiritism is wrong. It's just different definition. So what we have to feel comfortable is understanding the definition. And again, I think inert matter and intelligent matter, I don't think it's perfect. I don't really like that much, but it's fine. It's also, you can call it, because I don't like to call the spirit intelligence matter. I prefer intelligent principle, right? Because then you use matter for everything that derives from the universal fluid, and everything is inert, because unless the spirit acts on it, it doesn't have any life on it. But what I think that the explanation by Kardec here, it's what's more important to us, right? He says matter in and of itself is not intelligent. Intelligent principle is not matter. Matter is not intelligent. So the intelligent principle is independent of matter, as Kardec is defining. And again, we need to define here, right? And then he talks about the origin and connection between the two that are known to us. Because if you ask, how does the spirit acts on through the perispirit acts on the spirit on the physical body? We don't have the explanation of how this process works. We don't have the spirits giving us any explanation. We know that it acts on the universal fluid, but not exactly how, right? The same way that there is discussions of, how does God act on us, through us, or anything that you want to say, right? Or if God acts through the spirits or directly. We discussed a little bit last week, right? But the concepts here that I think it's important is the creator, supreme intelligence, is what we call God, which is above all and governs all things and is distinguished from them by essential attributes. That's what Kardec says here. So again, the pyramid, God controlling and creating everything, and then this intelligent principle from where the spirit derives, and the universal fluid from where all matter derives. If we understand these concepts, the intricacies between it, we can study a little bit more on Genesis. It goes a little bit deeper into it, but that's the basic. Because if we don't understand the basic, and we are going to see out there outside spiritism many people that do not know the basics. So when you see people saying that God and Jesus is one and the same, that when you say my spirit, which is also not the correct term, because I have my physical body, but I am the spirit, right? It's not my spirit. My physical body has a spirit. These misconceptions is what we have to be careful not to get confused in all these definitions. So as long as we understand the creator and the creation divided between what is intelligent principle, and what is not intelligent, what comes from the universal fluid or the cosmic fluid, that the spirit uses to act on anything, okay? Questions, comments here? Are good? Okay.
Okay. Properties of matter, number 29. Is it possibility an essential attribute of matter? Yes, for matter as you understand it, but not matter that is considered the universal fluid. The ethereal and subtle matter forming this fluid cannot be measured by you, and yet it is the source of your matter that can be weighed. Gravity is a relative property. Beyond the rim of gravitational pull between planets and stars, there is no such thing as weight, just as there is neither up nor down.
Okay. It's interesting, right? Because this concept that Kardec talks here, gravity and gravitational pull between planets and stars, this was in the middle of the 19th century, was very new and very not well known, right? But anyway, ponderability is an essential attribute of matter. The spirits say yes for matter as you understand, or as we used to understand in the middle of the 19th century. Today, with the quantum physics, we have a different concept of even of matter, of ponderability, of all the things. But the spirits already anticipate us. that the ethereal and subtle matter forming this fluid cannot be measured by you, and yet is the source of your matter that can be weighed. Today, science can weigh this imponderable matter, right? Or can do experiments with the black holes and all these things, that everything is matter in the end, right? And science is reaching that conclusion, right? That there is no vacuum space in space. You can create vacuum, which is something that we didn't think it was possible to create at the time of Kardec, but yes, now we can create vacuum, but vacuum does not exist in the universe by itself. Everything is occupied by universal fluid or matter, or however you want to call.
Perhaps even we can create vacuum as we understand it, but perhaps that vacuum is still not an empty completely yet, but we don't have means of measure whatever is inside of that space that we are calling vacuum right now.
Possibly, yes, I agree. Again, this is very sometimes very challenging for us, because we're talking about things of the universe that we don't have full knowledge, understanding, but we can see that the spirits are bringing concepts here that it would take decades for science to arrive at theirs. So the spirits couldn't bring much because we didn't even have words to describe what they wanted to say. So they bring a very as simple as possible explanation for us at the middle of the 19th century, and 180 years later, we're still struggling to understand what they tried to teach us that long ago, right? So, but the basic concepts that are used here that the spirits brings to us is what we are studying and developing, and science is going deeper into it. Okay.
Okay. Number 30. Is matter composed of one or several elements? One single primordial element. The bodies that you see as simple are not truly elements, but transformations of the primordial matter.
That's also a very interesting concept that the spirits bring to us, right? Reinforcing the concept that everything comes from one single primordial element, the universal fluid. Everything derives from it. Transformations of the primordial matter is what forms everything. Our physical body, our perispirit, air, thoughts, everything are transformations of this primordial element that the spirits tells us that there is only one. So you think of the creation, God is perfect, right? So God created something perfect, primordial element. Everything else comes from it. But you see, right, if you are going to go back to God and the creation, and you think about the spiritual principle, which is also perfect, right? And the universal fluid, you see the perfection of God in creating the origin, again, both in the spirit and matter, creating the origin and allowing it to develop through the spirit by itself and the universal fluid by the spirit acting on it consciously or unconsciously, right? Because when you think of a plant is already something that comes from the intelligent principle, right? Because the plant, when a plant directs itself towards the sun, and the instinctive part comes from the intelligent principle. And the plant is growing and is using the derivations from the universal fluid to become what it is, right? But all comes from a single primordial element that was created and is created again. God creates all the time, according to what we know. So creates spirits or intelligent principle all the time and creates universal fluid all the time. But if everything below is the intelligent principle acting on it, as far as we know, right? Again, we go back to the discussion, how far God goes into the creation, and we don't have the answers for that. But we can think of God creating the basics and everything else coming from the basics that we as intelligent principle develop. Okay.
I have a
Yes,
question.
go ahead.
Yeah. If the physical body is a manifestation of the cosmic fluid, once the physical body disappears, that energy or substance goes back to a big mass of the cosmic.
Yeah, we're having trouble hearing you, Paco. It's not very loud, your microphone. Can you try to improve that?
Okay. You know, I have not good connection always. Okay, now let me see if I can get this.
Better.
Better? Okay.
Better.
The physical body is a manifestation or projection of the cosmic fluid.
Yes.
Okay. Since the body itself disappears when we die, that energy, that projection goes back into the cosmic fluid.
The matter of the physical body goes back to Earth. Earth is formed by elements that are all derived from the cosmic fluid, right? And you know, if you remember chemistry, you have all the elements that combine to form different things, right? So our body is composed by the chemical elements that belong to planet Earth. And once our physical body dies, it goes back to Earth and all disintegrating all the elements that belongs to the planet Earth.
Okay, and the planet is also manifestation of the cosmic fluid because it's matter.
The what?
The planet itself
Yes.
is a manifestation of the cosmic fluid.
Yes.
So this physical body itself, basically, when it disappears, goes back to the cosmic fluid.
Yes.
Am I correct? Okay, so that means that I could think itself in terms that the physical body itself does not really exist. The only thing that exists is the spirit.
Well, no, the physical body exists, right? The physical body is formed by the spirit from the perispirit, and you know, you have a union of two incarnate beings, a man and a woman, that produces a newborn spirit, which the physical body derives from the universal fluid, yes, but is formed by elements that belongs to planet Earth. So it does exist, right? It's not an intelligent entity by itself.
Let me put it this way, the other way around. I'm Paco, I'm here like Paco today. And let's say in another reincarnation, I'm going to be Maria. Totally different physical projection. It's a totally different projection. And the next one, I will come like, I don't know, a black from Ethiopia. That's a whole different projection. So that means that all those characters that I'm playing is really, you know, basically just a script. What really counts is a spirit. So I could actually say that the only truth is that of God and of the spirit. The other is just malleable
Manipulation.
variables that are used in different manifestations.
Yeah, in a sense.
I'm
Yes.
thinking out loud. I mean, I don't know.
No, yeah, in a sense, you are correct, right? You have because matter, everything that derives from the universal fluid is not intelligent.
It's
So
not-
they are creations of the spirit of creations of God or the spirit, right? So in that sense, yes, but a physical body, it's like, it's like a cloth for the spirit. The spirit, for it to incarnate, needs a physical body.
It's a tool.
It's a tool, yes,
It's
but
a
it's not it's a tool that without the spirit has no use.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a tool. The physical body is a tool
Um,
that the spirit uses, makes
Yeah.
use of in order to manifest itself.
Orlando is asking here if is there positive and negative forces in matter, meaning good and evil. No,
No.
matter is not positive or negative. Matter is matter, right?
Yeah.
We, the spirit that acts using matter, that can do good or bad things. But again, evil is the absence of good, right? The same way that darkness is the absence of light, that you cannot have a dark place once you light a small candle in it. It's no longer dark. So dark by itself does not exist. What does exist is the absence of light. So evil is just an imperfect spirit making choices deviating from God's natural law and acting on their own inferior tendencies. But again, evil by itself, in the sense of independent of the whole concept of the universe and the evolutionary path, does not exist. What exists is the absence of good.
Moral values only we become an individualized intelligence principle.
Sorry,
Right?
go again?
Moral values, good and bad, only start to exist when we become an individualized intelligence principle. Before that, there's no good.
Yes, exactly. So that it doesn't exist in matter, because matter is not good or bad. It's just matter. It's neutral. The use we make of it, the spirit, is what makes it good or bad. It's like money, right? Money is not good or bad. Money is important. It's neutral. Depends on how you use it. You can use for good or for evil. But again, the spirit is the one that is making the choices and using it for good or evil. Okay?
Okay. Number 31. From where do the different properties of matter originate? They originate from changes undergone by elementary molecule as a result of their union and under certain conditions.
Yeah, not much to say here. Modifications of the universal fluid, right? That generate the different properties of matter. It changes done by modifications done by spirits, done by incarnate spirits, done by discarnate spirits, and create different properties. I don't think there is much more to say here. And again, we're going to talk a little bit more on the next question, because we reached, we go through flavors, colors, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Number 32. According to this interpretation of flavors or orders, colors, sounds, and the toxic of beneficial qualities of bodies, solely the result of modifications of the same basic substance? Yeah. Precisely. These senses only exist according to the design of the organs intended to perceive them. This principle is demonstrated by the fact that everyone does not perceive the qualities of material items in the same manner. While something may appear to taste good to one person, it may be horrible to another. What appears blue to one person appears red to another. That which is poisonous for some is harmless or even healthy for others.
So again, modifications of the universal fluid, right? flavors, odors, colors, sounds, toxic or beneficial qualities of things. It's all modifications of the same basic substance, right? And again, according to our senses, we interpret or we feel different from others, right? So the concept of food here comes to mind, right? Different people like different foods. Different bodies can deal with different foods in different ways, right? Allergies and some difficulties in digesting some sorts of food. You go to different regions, people have different tastes. All of these are modifications of the same basic substance. It's more of the same that we are talking about. But here, the spirits bring our senses, right? Smell, seeing, smell, hearing. These are all, again, modifications of the cosmic fluid, attributes of the spirit using their physical body or the spiritual body, both or only the spiritual body, to have these senses. And there, you can go to the infinite variations of modifications of matter that can cause diseases, that can cause positive reactions. We know that some medicine that in small doses can heal and in large doses can kill, right? So all these, again, we see that the modifications of the universal fluid in that concept, again, it goes beyond our comprehension when we start thinking of air, of colors, of these things that the more abstract the concept is, the more difficult for us to understand it, to fully embrace it. But again, important thing here is to know the basics, right? We don't really need to go deeper into this concepts, just to understand that everything derives from the universal fluid, and the spirit acting on it is creating, like the same way that we go to the kitchen and we prepare food, right? We are creating something out of other things, right? What are we doing when we cook? We are modifying ingredients and transforming the ingredients in something that we enjoy eating.
Very good analogy.
Yeah, we can compare that to modifications of the universal fluid, right? It's just that, when we cook, we are conscious of what we're doing and we know how to manipulate things. The spirits, some more evolved spirits can manipulate the universal fluid the same way that we manipulate food, right? But the concept, the principle is the same. The concept is the same. Okay.
This is how we use our senses is rather subjective. Well, each one of us perceives color, taste, it's quite subjective. The classic objective example that we have, that we use all the time, is carbon, right? So you have two things that is made of carbon and carbon only. It's no hydrogen or nothing, only carbon. One is graphite, the other one is diamond. If you ever seen graphite, it's what you use to write on a pencil, right? It's weak, you can break on your hands, right? It's dark, it's completely opaque. And diamond is the opposite. It's the hardest of all the elements. It's translucent. And both are absolutely carbon and nothing else. What is the difference? Well, the one that become diamond underwent tremendous amount of heat and tremendous amount of pressure went over it. And over time, it transformed itself from that ugly thing, right, graphite, in the beautiful thing called a diamond.
Yeah.
And that there is no subjective, that's completely objective. To me, is a much better example to this.
Yeah, and graphite is worthless.
So Valentine's Day is there, give your wife a pencil, see if she'll be happy. It's the same thing.
It's the same thing, right?
Just practice it. It's karma. Same thing.
The only difference is time. Save the graphite for millions of years and you have your diamond.
Okay. Okay, Orlando had a question.
Oh, he has another question. Okay. We talk about the spiritual body, but as humans, I don't know, you didn't finish your question, Orlando. The spiritual body is the body, a body in the spiritual world from where the physical body originates. So the physical body, it's a copy of our spiritual body, or as we call in Spiritism, the perispirit. It transmits all the characteristics, the imperfections, the challenges that we carry as eternal spirit may be transmitted to the physical body, and that is what sometimes cause imperfect physical bodies here. It's the origin is imperfect perispirit. But again, the spiritual body, it's not the spirit. Like the physical body is not the spirit, the spiritual body is not the spirit. The spirit has the spiritual body. Who commits evil is the spirit, it's not the spiritual body again. Evil, goodness or evil is an attribute of the spirit, not of the spiritual body, not of the physical body. You have people that are very big and strong and very gentle, and you have people that are very small, tiny, and very nasty. So that doesn't have to do with the physical body. It has everything to do with the spirit. The spirit is the one that can commit evil through the physical body, through the spiritual body, depending on where the spirit finds itself.
We're going to discuss the perispirit in this book. For now, suffice to be clear that perispirit is also matter, is also substract of the cosmic fluid.
Yeah. Okay.
Number 33.
33.
Can the same elementary matter undergo all possible changes and acquire all properties? Yes, and it is this fact that is implied in the saying, everything in everything. Oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, and all other masses that we see as elements are merely variations of primordial substance. As we have found it impossible to arrive at this elementary matter other than as an intellectual deduction, they appear to be elementary. We may therefore continue to regard them as such for now. A. This theory appears to support the opinion of those who acknowledge only two essential properties in matter, force and movement, and who regard all other properties of matter as purely secondary effects, varying according to the intensity of the force and direction of movement. This opinion is exact. We must also add according to the molecular arrangement. For instance, in an opaque body, they may become transparent and vice versa.
Okay, so the question here, the same elementary matter can possibly undergo all possible changes and acquire all properties. It has to, because from the universal cosmic, everything, universal fluid, everything derives. So if everything derives, it's possible to acquire all properties, right? Otherwise, you would have a different universal fluid as an origin. So Kardec here says that all the elements that they knew at the time and still today, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, carbon, are merely variations of one primordial substance, right? So our chemical table starts with the hydrogen, right, and the nitrogen, but in reality, it should start with the universal fluid. But as Kardec says here, as we found it impossible to arrive at this elemental matter other than as an intellectual deduction, we'll leave it as it is, right, as an intellectual deduction. And then it's interesting because he brings the question about force and movement, and Einstein comes 70 years later and brings the concept of energy and matter that are interchangeable, right? That they transform in each other, right? Energy and matter into energy, which force and movement are two components of matter and of energy, right? And the spirits confirm it's exact and talks about how an opaque body may become transparent and vice versa, according to molecular arrangement. And again, I believe that in the middle of the 19th century, this was not something that was out there in common knowledge. I think that this molecular study came later, right? I don't know. I don't think they had it at that time. Okay. All right. Last one.
34. Molecules have a definite form. Of course, they have a form, but it cannot be assessed by you. A, is this form constant or variable? Constant for primordial, elementary molecules, but variable for secondary molecules that are only aggregations of the primary ones. What you call a molecule is very far from being an elementary molecule.
You see here by the answer of the spirits how they don't have the words. We don't have the words, right? Because we call molecule here, it's not really molecule, right? Primordial elementary molecules. What the concept is that the universal fluid is constant, is not variable. The variations of it is what is variable. Secondary molecules, right? There are aggregations of the primary ones. And again, molecule is not the best word for it, but it's the word that we had and that we used. The question is if they have a form, and the spirit says that, of course, they have a form, but it cannot be assessed by you. Because the universal fluid is something. And if it's something, it has a form. But I don't think form is even the right word for us to define it, right? But the spirit or the intelligent principle doesn't have a form in the sense here that we're talking, right? The physical body has a form, the spiritual body, perispirit has a form, but the spirit, no. And we don't even have a definition of the spirit, right? They say here, it's a spark, but that's not the best definition that we have. There is a note by Kardec here that I forgot to mention, that here when he talks about everything, the spirits talk about everything is everything. Can you read for us, Zoraida, here?
Yes. Yeah. This principle explains the phenomenon known by all magnetizers that consists in giving radically different properties to any substance, such as a specific taste to water and even the active qualities of other substances. Since there is only one primordial element and the properties of different bodies, only variations of this element, the most inoffensive substance has the same foundation as the most noxious. water, which is 1 part oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen, as the most noxious. Water, oh boy, water, which is 1 part oxygen and 2 parts hydrogen, becomes corrosive when someone doubles the proportion of oxygen. A similar transformation may occur by the magnetic action directed by the will.
Yeah, here we can read this and think about the passes, right? What we are doing with the passes, or what the spirits are doing with the passes. Since there is one primordial element, the properties of different bodies are only variations of this element. So the passes are energies manipulated by the spirits to provide the healing and the benefits that someone needs. And the same thing with magnetizers, right? When you are giving the passes and you are also a magnetizer, you are giving your own magnetic energies that are helping also the patient to receive the healing it needs. Okay? We're going to stop here. We leave universal space for next week when we are going to start talking about the universe a little bit. Okay. Couple of announcements for this weekend. We have on Saturday, we have a lecture by our friend John Santos from Atlanta. He's going to talk about the kingdom of God. Where can one locate the kingdom of God? What are the essential tools needed to reach the kingdom of God? What should be the central theme of our lives? Power, material possessions, beauty, or something else? Did Jesus guide his disciples in comprehending the essence of this kingdom? Let's explore the answers to these questions and more in this lecture. So this is Saturday, 11 a.m. through the YouTube or Facebook of the United States Spiritist Federation, right? The Psychology and Spirituality series is on episode 52, and it's called Reconciliation. When Jussara and Dr. Anaí are going to discuss forgiveness that transcends the superficiality. Surpasses feelings of retaliation, vengeance, and hatred by achieving a seamless integration of oneself. It's an episode dedicated to Nelson Mandela and his leadership through reconciliation. Okay, this is tomorrow at 6 p.m., but you can always watch it later. And it's also available on Spotify. It's called Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life. Okay. Zoraida, can you do our final prayer, please? Oh, the book club, sorry, reads book 2, chapter 1. We're starting the second part of the book, Ill-Fated Diamonds by Divaldo Franco and Victor Hugo. Okay, thank you.
Okay. As we end our meeting today, to our beloved Father, our spiritual benefactors, our guardian angels, as we come to the end of our meeting, we give thanks to all in assisting our teachers and relating our lesson today. May we be able to relate it in our lives, understand it, and pursue to understand what it really means in our lives. May we keep ourselves throughout the week with prayers for all who are going through difficulties, those that are in hospitals and hospices and the homeless, the undeveloped countries and countries that are going through so much suffering, the war that continues. May we continue with prayers in our homes and giving them all light and understanding with our Father's love. We pray for SGNY and all Spiritist centers, for the United States Spiritist Federation, the United States Spiritist Councils. We thank you for all that they have given us and still continue May our families receive prayers of strength and courage throughout the week. May we continue our prayers at home. We ask as we leave here today to return again next week. With our hearts full of gratitude, we thank you, dear Lord, for this evening. And we ask permission to close our meeting tonight. So be it.